Hi everybody, it's Jennifer Milner. Hi, here with Free Dance Training. We're going to be talking about the foot and ankle today and how to have it strong. So we're going to be doing some foot and ankle strengthening stuff. I'm going to give people a couple minutes to join in. So let me know if you can't hear me or can't see me for some weird reason. Hey, everybody that's joining. While I'm waiting for people to join, let's talk about what we could use today. I have a squishy ball. If you have one of those, great. I have a small ball. I have a lacrosse ball. The small ball is something that you get like at Chuck E. Cheese in the little dispenser thing. I have a lacrosse ball. I have a squishy ball that's an Eric Franklin ball, which is great and has a little bit of texturing on it. And I have a TheraBand. On top of that, I have a yoga mat, and I can use a pillow or something squishy like this that a lot of people use for balance and testing issues. So if you have any of that stuff lying around your house, go grab it, and I'll give you a couple of minutes to get it and come back. Small ball, hard ball. If you don't have a small ball, you can even use like a water bottle instead of a small ball. So just something that won't leak. So grab your small ball, grab your TheraBand, grab a yoga mat or something squishy. We're not even going to lay the yoga mat out. We're just going to use it for balance. So grab the yoga mat, anything else that you want to grab, and we will start in 1 minute, okay? While we are waiting to start, while we're waiting for everybody to grab all of their stuff, I just want to say how much I love what is happening here. You know, coronavirus bad, I get that, but I love how much the dance community is coming out and supporting each other. I love how I'm getting to watch some amazing ballet classes online with some of my favorite teachers in the world, and how my students are getting to take from those teachers more than I ever thought would be able to. So I'm really grateful to the dance community for coming out and sharing of their talent so selflessly. This is really great, and I'm really enjoying it. So, hi everyone. Hi Ava. Miss you. So hopefully everybody is staying safe and staying healthy, and we're going to be doing some footwork today. I'm going to move the screen a little bit so you can see my feet, because we're going to start with our feet. Actually, I'm going to move the chair, and I'm going to take my small ball. Use your small ball. Use your lacrosse ball. Use your water bottle, put it on the floor, pray that it doesn't leak, and back up so you can see it. And you're just going to roll your foot out. Preferably something hard. If it's a water bottle, mine's not a great example. But rolling your foot out with either the lacrosse ball or the small hard ball. Whenever I do footwork, I like to start by rolling out and releasing, because I want to wake those muscles up. A lot of times dancers, we use our feet muscles like this all the time, and so the muscles underneath get short and tight and small. And even if they're the muscles that we want to work, they only work in one specific position, right? In that little short position. So we want to stretch them out a little bit, massage them a little bit, warm them up, and get them ready to work. So after we roll out all underneath the foot, we put our heel down, and we say no. Go back and forth across the ball of the foot. It might feel a little crunchy to you. If at any time that you're doing this, something feels wrong, don't do it, right? Rolling onto your heel and go back and forth on your heel. This is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical conditions. This is just me sharing some of the things that work for me with you. And then when we roll back again, we're going to let the toes kind of stretch over the ball and bend, and roll it down and bend, and one more time, bend, and go back. Give your arch a little bit more love because it feels so good. My feet are tired because I've been taking bar, and I stopped taking bar 19 years ago. But I can't resist when I see some of my favorites, so my feet are tired just from dancing. So we're going to switch to the other foot, and we're going to roll the other foot arches out. Hi to everybody that's joining. Grab grab whatever props you have, and we're going to work on our feet and ankle strength a little bit here. Foot and ankle strength is something that I love to work on and talk about with dancers. Putting your heel down and going back and forth across the ball of your foot. The vast majority of dance injuries come from the foot and ankle, and interestingly enough, a very large percentage of those injuries, most people would probably put it around 80%, are avoidable. So it's misuse or overuse, and those types of injuries are the injuries that dance medicine specialists hate to see because they can be prevented. Would a glass water bottle work? Depends on how hard you push down. I don't want you to push down and break anything, all right? I'm talking about, hang on, let's see. No product placement, but I'm talking about something like this. You can put down and you can roll out your foot on, okay? That's the type of thing I'm talking about. You can use any part of it you want, just, don't drink out of it afterwards. So we're rolling out our left foot. We're almost finished. We're going back. Yeah, a roller works. Anything that you've got to try to loosen up the bottom of your foot. One of those long, skinny rollers that dancers use to roll across their thighs? We just want to kind of get in and massage your feet a little bit. One of those prickly balls, as long as you don't push too hard and, kill yourself. We're going to stretch out our toes and move to the next section. And move to the next section. And let that open up and all those toes loosen up. So we'll set the balls aside for now and stand there and just see what it feels like on the ground. Do your feet feel different? Do your feet feel more in touch with the ground? Do they feel like they cover more surface area? Do they feel like your feet are relaxing and spreading out? Just kind of take note of how your feet feel after a very, very small amount of time, doing a very small amount of massage. So we're going to go. I'm going to move you real quick, so don't panic. Let's see if that's going to work. Let's try this. Okay. So we're going to go with our feet out in front of you. You can sit on the floor. You can hug. You can sit with your feet down. I would do that, but then you can't see my feet. So I'm sitting with my feet up here so that you can see them. And I even shaved today, so you're welcome. That's one of the benefits of being a little socially isolated, right? You don't have to shave as often, but I shaved today. So what we're going to do to start with is try to separate our toes. We want each toe to act individually, okay? So we're gonna see, this is basic stuff. Every dancer that I work with should be able to do this really well because we work on it. Big toes go up first. Then, I'm out of shape. Second toes, then third toes, then fourth toes, then fifth toes. Yay! What we want to make sure doesn't happen is that we don't roll out on our ankles, that we're reaching the whole ball of the foot down on the ground, okay? Then we're going to put down just the pinky toes, just the fourth toe, just the third toe. Wow, this is unnerving to watch myself do this. Just the second toe and the big toe again. If you need to, you can hold your toes down with your fingers as you do it, just to help it start to see what it's supposed to do. So let's do it again. Big toes, second toes, third toes, fourth toes, fifth toes. And then reaching the pinkies back down. Do not panic if this is ridiculously hard, because it is ridiculously hard. Fourth toe, third toe, second toe, first toe. We'll do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and reversing it back down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is everybody getting it? Is it ridiculously difficult, or are you guys all pros at this? All right, let's go just the big toes. Okay, let's see if we can do that, and I'm going to go straight on. Let's see if we can do that without the big toes wandering out to the side like that. See if you can pick them straight up and down. When you have your toes wander out to the side like this, that means that you are losing a muscle right in here, which is an arch muscle. And that arch muscle also is a muscle that makes your big toe go like this, which is helpful in preventing, who knows what it is. Your left toe will work. We will make it. It helps prevent bunions, right? Because your bunions, your toes go like that, and then you have the knob right there on the side. And the muscle that can bring this toe back can help fight against those bunions. So as we lift up and lower, we're really working against bunions and at the same time strengthening our arches and lifting our arches. Yes, Peyton, you better know the answer to that, bunions. Now let's pick all the toes up. Put your pinky toes down and put your big toes down, but leave the other 3 toes up. I ran out of space there. There we go. Yeah, that's crazy, I know. Lower the 3 toes in the middle down. Pick the 3 toes in the middle back up. Lower them down. Pick them back up. As you're doing this, make sure that your calf isn't working. My right calf likes to work a little bit. See if you can keep your calf quiet and let just the toes do the work. And all the work comes from right in here, not from gripping up here. Yeah? So the little calves are going to stay nice and soft. Up with the toes, down with the toes. Up, down. And rest. Shake them out. Everybody getting a little crampy underneath? If you're feeling it underneath, that means you're doing it correctly. Way to go. All right, let's work on our doming, all right? Keeping our feet nice and long through here. I tell people to keep their toes long and try to pop the knuckles on their feet up without curling the toes under. Let's see if I can do it sideways. There we go. So this is what we don't want to have happen. What we do want to have happen is we want this to pop up and your toes stay straight. I always say that it's as if an elephant is standing on your toes and you're going to slide your toes out from underneath the elephant's foot very, very carefully. So you want to keep those toes long. So this is one way that we work on doming. When your toes curl, what's actually happening is we're using muscles that are way up in our calves, and which can cause a lot of issues, Achilles tendinopathies, FHL tendinopathy, posterior tib tendinopathy. So we want to keep these toes, instead of curling and gathering something towards us, we want to keep them long. Then we're using the teeny tiny muscles in our feet to do the work for us instead of the big bossy calf muscles. So keeping those toes long, holding the toes down if you need to, and thinking long toes, pop up those knuckles. Right? Calf stays soft. Anybody having trouble making this happen? Me. I had a lot of trouble with this, especially when I started. But we want to keep those toes long. We want to work on this. Yes? Now, if we get super advanced at it, we're going to keep the toes down and we're going to see if we can lift that arch just like that and let it relax without lifting the toes even. Just contracting the arch. We're thinking about drawing the ball of the foot closer to the heel and making a little mouse house and then lengthening it back out and then contracting that arch. We don't want to lift from the front of the foot. We don't want to see, let's see if I can make it happen. We don't want to see these tendons pop out. Because when the tendons pop out, then I'm lifting from the top of the foot, rather than when I dome, I want to think, instead of lifting from here, I want to think draw the heel closer, keep the top of the foot quiet as I do that. Yeah? Not lifting from the top, but pushing away through the floor. If you're having trouble making this work, you can use your hands, which sounds crazy, but your hands are very similar to your toes. Thumb, all the rest, right? Very similar distribution to bones and everything. And you can make your hands do the motion along with it, and it'll help them learn a little bit. It's learning not to curl, but keeping them long as it comes up. Your DIPs keep trying to cheat. Girl or boy, and Mar McLeod, just you, who's the boss here? Huh? You are. You're the boss. You tell it. You are the boss. No cheaters. Well, we're all cheaters, but work on it. You can do it. I know. Curling and toes are going to be long. And then that's about all I can stand to that. And we'll relax our feet, shake them out. Right? So what have we done so far? We've done our wave, we've done our doming, and then we've done our extra hard doming, which is trying to lift the arch, and we've done the lift, pinky toe, middle toes, and just lift the middle toes. We're trying to get our toes to do that work, right? The small muscles to do that work. Because what are we trying to work on here? We are trying to work on pointing with the whole foot. A lot of times people will go into a tendu. Let's see. I'm gonna have to move you again, sorry. So you can see the floor. Okay, so a lot of times people will go into a tendu, and what do you see with the toes? You see the toes kind of crunch under like that, right? So I see those toes crunching up like this all the time. It doesn't matter how good the rest of your foot is. If your toes are crunching, you're doing it wrong. And you are not using your toes correctly in point shoes either. When you go up on point, when you go to here and you press up to your point, your toes can't crunch underneath. They have to stay long and point through the toe. So what we want to do is have your toes feel really dumb right now. No. Your toes aren't dumb because they acknowledge that they don't know what they're doing and they need to learn, right? So that's smart. That's not dumb. So what we want to do is point with the whole foot. We don't want to point with just these little toes that curl under because we think it makes our point look better. It does not. We want those toes to be longer. So we want to point with the whole foot. So where does the point start from? Anybody know where the point starts from in the whole body? And don't say head because that's where your brain is. Like, I get that. But if you're going to start a point, where does it come from first? Anybody know? Okay, I think my students are furiously typing, but there's a little bit of a lag. From your arch, that is a great guess, but it's even further. Back it up a little bit. Ankle, where in the ankle? What happens first? Arch, yes, that's also a great guess. Ankle, so that's what glute. Your glutes. Well, I guess in a way because that whole posterior chain goes together, so I kind of have to give you that for the glute. But the point is going to start in the calf. Yes, more wine, less wine. Yes, more wine, less wine. That is correct. Okay. Top of the foot, yes, we definitely want to point with the top of the foot too. What I want to see, the first thing I want to see for a point, as we scoot that foot out for a tendu, is the heel is going to draw closer to the calf. That's the first thing that happens. The calf is going to start to work the big calf muscle, our nice big calf, right? And as the heel draws closer to the calf, then we're going to start to point through our tarsal bones. This section takes some practice, I'm not going to lie. But we're going to think about that heel drawing closer, the heel lifting up higher, and as that happens, I'm going to start to point through here and feel the stretch through the tarsal bones, and then I'm going to feel the stretch through the metatarsal bones, and suddenly I have a really high point, and I haven't even finished my toes yet, right? So I've got the heel drawing up, I have the tarsal bones stretching, I have the metatarsal stretching, and then I'm going to finish with the toes, not by flipping the toes under, but by lengthening the toes out and feeling them go nice and long. So we want to point from the calf all the way down and through. Yes? So think about that. Practice that again with me. Think about the heel drawing closer to the calf. And think about that heel rising up. Thank you. Think about that heel. Y'all, I can't take credit for my arch. It's purely genetics. That heel is going to come closer to your calf. And as that heel comes closer to your calf, you start to point through the top of the foot. So I'm going to go, heel is going to draw up, and then I'm going to think, lengthen my tarsal bones, this part right here. And then I'm going to think this part lengthens even more, and then the last thing that happens is the toes, right? There's so much to have happen before you can even get to pointing those toes. So think about that when you're trying to point your feet next time. And I tell my dancers the best place to work on that is at bar, at the very beginning of class. As you get going fast, it's really hard to think about, it's really hard to stay on top of. I get that. But if you can think about it and work on it on your own, then you'll get that pointing going really well. Okay, so we're going to move to our calf, and we're going to see what we can do to help it. I like starting in this place. let's see if you can see me. Yep. I like starting in this place because it's a great place for your calves to work. If you have an ankle injury, if you have shin splints or something that has you unweighted for a while, not weight bearing and not standing, it's a nice place to work with your medical professional's permission. Partial weight bearing. You're going to lean on your elbows and you're going to lift your heels up. As you lift your heels up, draw your heel closer to your calf. I can't say that cue enough times. Instead of pushing down into the ground, which is going to activate those deep, small calf muscles like your posterior tib, think heel comes closer to your calf. That's going to be your nice big gastroc, and your soleus doing the work. So as I lift those heels up and I feel my calves getting big and soft, I'm up into a nice rise, and then I will slowly lower back down. And as I lower back down, you'll probably see me stutter because my right leg is weaker than my left from an old injury. And just leaning on your legs gives you that little bit of, honest spirit, you bet this better look familiar. Just leaning on those legs gives you that little extra feedback, slowly lowering back down, right? As I face forward, some of the things that we don't want to have happen, we don't want to have our ankles wander out, right? So facing forward, I don't want to see the ankles wander out like that. As we come down, I don't necessarily want to see them come in that way either. A lot of you are probably familiar with putting a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball back behind your ankle bone. I like to have my feet back so my knees are over my feet rather than too far forward. So I get a deeper plie here, but I'm going to make sure that I keep that ankle nice and straight as I go up and down. So before I try to do too much of this, heels draw closer, calves get big and strong, and then slowly lower back down. And this will get our calves warmed up and ready to give us a nice, beautiful point. And slowly, look at that stutter. Lower back down and listen to me snap, crackle, pop. And heels come back down, nice and slow. Make sense? So what have we done so far? We've done our toes, we've done our wave, yes. We've done our doming, we've done our hard doming, we've worked on pointing the whole foot, and now we're working on our calf muscles and feeling how the calf is going to help us with that whole foot without wandering out to the side, right? Let's move to the TheraBand. Dun, dun, dun. What is the snap, pop, and crack in the ankle? I am hypermobile. I have a hypermobility spectrum disorder. So I have really loose ligaments. I've sprained my ankles many times. And so some of it is just my ankles, the ligaments are loose and they just pop back and forth across different origins and insertions. Again, I'm not a medical professional. Some people just kind of snap, crackle, and pop. In general, what Lisa Howell would say, who is one of the people I adore, fantastic woman in dance medicine, what Lisa Howell always says is that popping or snapping or cracking is a sign of weakness or instability. So when my back pops, when I go a certain direction, there's weakness in the muscles around it that aren't keeping it as strong and stable as they should be. So I don't pop stuff, whatever it is, I don't pop stuff on purpose. I try to avoid that, though it's hard. I weaned myself off of popping my fingers and my knuckles a couple months ago because I don't want to encourage that weakness and instability. So I try to avoid it, but my ankles still snap a lot. So, TheraBand. Let's have a conversation about this, okay? I know all of y'all are out there putting your feet into your TheraBand, taking your leg out, and going point and relax, and point and relax. So here's a couple reasons why I don't like this. And again, this isn't just me. This is the dance medicine world in general. And again, Lisa Howell has a fantastic little video talking about this exact same thing. So I highly encourage you to look her up. As I go into a point with my toes, it's really difficult if you can't point well without the TheraBand. Then when you add the resistance of the TheraBand, if your toes curl under without it, they're going to curl under with it. So it's very, yes, should I get a lighter TheraBand or a heavier one for more strengthening? I would go lighter because you want to make sure that you're going to do it correctly. As I lengthen my toes, can I do it with all my toes, right? That's one of the reasons I don't like this exercise. So get your TheraBand, but not for this exercise. The other reason I don't like this exercise, which is also something that Lisa Howell talks about. As you're pointing, this TheraBand is pulling your foot back into your ankle, and it's putting a fair amount of compression right back here, okay? If you already have issues with Achilles tendinopathies, different muscles that go through there, different tendinopathies, this is not going to help. And a lot of dancers deal with compression in the back of their ankle. So this is not my favorite thing to do. If you must, put the TheraBand around your foot like this. Let's see. Trying to find a way that you can see it. Again, this is in a Lisa Howell video. I love her dearly. She's a friend of mine. So hold the TheraBand out to the side this way and then point the toe. So you're getting the wing muscle as well. You're not having the toes curl under as much, but you're still getting a little extra exercise, and you're not having the compression of pulling back into your heel. If you super duper have to use your TheraBand in that way, that's what I would do. I encourage the studios that I work with to not teach that as a strengthening exercise for their dancers' feet. I don't know how many dancers can do the regular stuff I ask them of them, much less the TheraBand correctly. So instead, let's do this. And I'm trying to remember where I first got this from. I think it was Australian Ballet. Australian Ballet is at the forefront of dance medicine and science. Any of you are watching, I love you so much. And they have really great stuff on preventing injuries. So let's put the TheraBand. Can everybody see that? No. Let's put the TheraBand underneath our foot. And do you see how I'm pulling my toes up? The TheraBand's going to pull my toes up, and I'm going to work against that TheraBand back down to neutral. I can feel my toes wanting to pop under, and I'm having to work against them to go down. And as I relax, the TheraBand pulls it back up, and as I work against it, the toes go back down. I'm keeping my calf completely soft, and I'm using just my toes to press back down. These are the exact same muscles that we use for doming, right? But instead of going in this direction, we're going from up to down. The toes are pulled up with the TheraBand, and then the toes press back down against the TheraBand. So it's working a slightly different range of motion, but it's a fantastic way to work on getting those toes working in a long range of motion. Yes? So I really want to see everybody doing this instead of doing this. And then the poor little toes curl under instead of staying long and straight. Yes? If you feel particularly hardcore and are really good at it, then I would like to know about it. And you can practice pointing and just do one toe at a time. I'm not even pulling hard because I don't want to hyperextend my toes. Just practice pointing and giving one toe a little extra feedback. And relax. And a little extra feedback. And relax. And see if that is too much of a challenge. Yeah? What stretches do you recommend to strengthen metatarsals? Well, your metatarsals are bones, but I'm assuming you're saying the muscles around those bones, and all the exercises that we're doing right now are exercises that would strengthen the muscles around your bones, right? So your metatarsals are these bones right here. They look kind of like fingers from the top. And then your tarsals are these bones right here. Just like in your hand, your metacarpals are right here, and your carpals are right there. And these are your phalanges, and these are your phalanges. So they really are quite remarkably similar. Yeah? But I can't write with my toes yet. Okay, so going from that, working on using the TheraBand to really stretch and extend those toes from that seated position, right here, pressing down against it. Yes? Going from that, we've done the seated heel raises. So then we move to the standing heel raises. If you've got a chair or something that you can hold on to, that's great. I'm going to stand and face you, but you can stand and face the bar. I just want to be able to talk to you. From this position, if we need to, we're going to start with the ball between our heels, okay? Making sure that we're holding it right there. And we're gonna lift the heels up. And then lower down. Is that exercise supposed to hurt your toes? If you're talking about the TheraBand exercise, no, it should not. So you may be pulling too hard. You may want to have someone that has knowledge in this area to watch you and see what you're doing, to see you might be doing something funky with that, but it shouldn't hurt your toes. It should make the muscles underneath feel like they're working. Yes? And again, if anything here hurts or feels weird or sends shooting pains or numbness or stabbing pains or anything like that, this is not the appropriate time for you to work on this, right? So we have the ball between our ankles, and you're going to lift up in your heels without dropping the ball. And then you're going to lower back down. Let's all do this together. Lift. You're welcome. And then you're going to lower slowly. Lifting is important because that's your jump, but lowering and controlling that lowering is so important as well because that's your landing, right? And usually with dancers, we are all or nothing. And when you jump, you press up and you get there really great, and then a lot of times you land and you just kind of collapse. And you don't have that deceleration of the calf to slowly lower you down, slowly in microseconds, right? But it's so important to practice lowering in a nice controlled way. Lifting and making sure you're not going to your first toe or going to your fifth toe, but both heels go up together and we're going to our second toe. And slowly lowering. I want you guys to keep going. I'm going to show you some things not to do. Standing turn sideways. As you go up, try not to sway forward to come up and then sway forward to come down. Yes, this is not helping anyone. Think about drawing that heel closer to the calf again, and as you draw that heel closer to the calf, you lift up. Your weight will shift slightly as your center of balance shifts, but you're not shifting hugely into your pelvis. Make sure you're not hanging into your lower back for people who are bending in their lower back, but staying nice and tall. Make sure you're not pushing down into the floor as much as you're thinking lengthen into the floor, but the heels draw up and you lower down. If you're hyperextended, don't lock your knees back. Keep them straight and strong, but don't lock back into it because then your weight shifts somewhere else to compensate. We want everything stacked and straight as you go up and down, right? Kneecaps pulled up. Should your glutes be active in this exercise? That's a great question. Not to start a war, but they do not need to work in this exercise. Your glutes are a hip extensor, which means that your glutes take your leg from here to here. Your glutes also turn out. They're a large turnout muscle, even though you have 6 other turnout muscles. So I'm using an orange. Elisa or Alyssa, I love your way of troubleshooting and making do with what you've got. I love that. So your glutes do not need to work as you're going up and down. You do not need to squeeze your butt as you go up and down. You should have enough of your core stability, that I like to call it your center. You should have enough of your center strength that your booty can be totally soft and the back of your legs are working. Your hamstrings are working to keep your pelvis forward. Your calves are working. I don't think you need to squeeze your booty. I know that that's taught in some classes as a quick way to kind of get your stabilizers on, but I don't think you need to. Okay, so everybody's calves are probably tired now, so you can let that. Can you go over the 6 turnout muscles? Oh, dog. Okay, yes. Okay. The gemelli brothers. That's the gemelli inferior, the gemelli superior. The stubborn sisters. That's the obturator internus and externus. The quadratus femoris and the piriformis. Yes! I did it. I did it. You have 6 tiny turnout muscles. That is a whole other workshop for us to do, talking about how to find those 6 tiny turnout muscles instead of just squeezing your booty. But it's so important, okay? So, small pillow for me. Well, Ava, you know not to drop it, so I trust you with the small pillow. So let's set the ball aside, and we're going to move to one foot. If you were all over the place, and all over the place if you've recently had an injury, some of my dancers, you know who you are, stay on 2 feet, or instead of going to 1 foot right away, press up on 2 feet, lift up 1 foot, and slowly lower down. Starting up on 2, you're welcome, Emily, slower lowering down, okay? But everybody else, we're going to go to 1 foot. Parallel coupe, and we're going to see if we can go up. Go right up, without going into the front of the hip, keeping the pelvis forward, and slowly lower down. I know we do this in conditioning, but what stretches can help to strengthen my Achilles? That's a great question. I'm not sure who you are, but I'm assuming you're one of my students. Your Achilles technically is a tendon, so you can't really strengthen it, but you're talking about the muscles around it. And that, again, is a whole other conversation. But what we are doing right here should be strengthening the muscles that you need. Slowly up, slowly down. So another study that came out of Australian Ballet found that doing these, being able to do these 25 times on one leg in a row correctly, was the best indicator for who was going to have foot or ankle injuries over the season. And it's now written into their contract, I believe, that the dancers have to do 25 of these on each foot between bar and center. I have a lot of my dancers do this. Remember, as you're going up, you can't rock forward and rock back. You can't sink into your hip as you go up. It has to be square. Your side butt and your calf should be burning. That's about 12, so let's let that calf rest and stretch. And we'll switch to the other side. Studies have also shown that stretching your calf isn't as good for tight calves as working your calf in a full range of motion. Doing exercises like these, but maybe hanging off the stairs, so it goes into a full flex and then goes up. Like that, with the heel hanging down, not on an unstable surface unless you're ready for it though. Right? Snap, crackle, pop. Is better at kind of lengthening them out and then using the ball to roll out your calves, which is a whole other session too. So we're going to switch to our other foot. Make sure that you're reasonably in parallel. Make sure that your hip's not all crazy crooked. And you're going to press yourself up and lower down. This is my bad side. Oh, hi Georgia. And lower down. Thank you for telling me who you were. And make sure that hip doesn't hike. And make sure you don't lock back into the back knee. And lower down. And make sure you feel the whole back of that leg lifting up as you go. I feel it all the way up to my tushy. And I'm not trying to squeeze my butt, but I can feel that glute starting to work because that whole posterior chain is working. Your calves actually cross over your knee and come up behind the top of your knee, and your hamstrings cross over and come down below your knee. So there's a lot of crossover there between the hamstrings and the calves. Let's do 3 more. 3, a little bit lost count, but I'm sure we're good. 2, lower down. 1 more time. 1, and lower, and lunge it out, and let it relax. You can repeat this at the bar in plie, 4 starch, to work on that deceleration. If I go slow, you'll see me stutter a little bit more because I'm trying to take better time with it. Pressing up and slowly lowering down. Is my knee supposed to be hurting while I do this? Melanie, is it the back of your knee or the front of your knee? Either way, no, your knee should not be hurting while you're doing this. Sometimes your knee is hurting while you're doing this because you're locking back into that hyperextension and you're hanging into the back of the joint and putting a lot of compression there, rather than having the kneecaps pulled up, right? Kneecaps pulled up straight and strong, but not locking back into that hyperextension. That's putting a lot of pressure there that doesn't need to be there, okay? So, going from here, we have worked that. Now we're just going to work our balance, all right? The first thing that you want to be able to do, all my dancers, do it with me, stand on one leg. Parallel, foot does not touch the other leg, hands don't touch each other, hands don't grip the sides of the body, your arms are floating, you're closing as few circuits as possible to help you be able to stay high on your toes when landing a jump. Irish dancer, have trouble landing jumps high on my toes instead of collapsing to a flat foot. You know what? I bet there are, but send me a direct message, a DM, because I have a friend, a colleague who trains Irish step dancers, and I can point you in their direction, and they will give you lots of great information, I think. So, foot is in a passe, legs not touching, arms aren't touching, and see if you can balance. Everybody should be able to balance here because we're dancers, right? Trying not to lock into that knee, trying to stay nice and tall. So again, we're not sitting into that lower back, we're not locking back in that knee, but we're staying tall through it, yes? In this position, I want you to close your eyes. Good, yes, absolutely, I'll put you in touch with them. Keep your eyes closed and we're going to count to 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't start to sit back. 7, keep the pelvis forward. 8, 9, 10, 11. Eyes are still closed. 13, 14. It should look familiar, Morgan. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. My eyes aren't closed because I'm reading. 1, 22, 23, 24. Keep the weight forward. Balance work is back here. 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, that was 30 seconds. Hopefully your eyes were closed. We will learn 2 things from this. We'll learn what your balance is like in general, and we'll learn where you balance from. If you got tired in your foot, if you got tired in your calf, if you got pain in your knee from locking your knee, if you got tired on the side of your high knee, that'll tell us what you were using to balance. Tired in your foot and ankle, we're using a lot of foot and ankle to balance. This is a whole other session for us to do, but learning to balance proximally from your pelvis, from your hips, and all of this strength is going to be so much more helpful for you and so much more efficient than balancing from way down here. So that's the first thing you're going to want to work on. In general, I expect pre-professional dancers to be able to balance with their eyes closed for 30 seconds. Professional dancers, I expect 60 seconds with it, okay? Let's try the other side. One side's always better than the other. Standing without the foot touching, without your hands clasping or anything like that. Standing, eyes are going to close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pelvis comes forward over your toes. Don't sit back. 9, 10, 11, 12. Hips stay square. 14, 15, 16, 17. Do a balance live next. That would be fun. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. That's a great question. Deanna, 27, 28, 29, 30. And rest. How was that? Harder or easier than the other side? Deanna asked, is there any exercise or anything I can do to help keep my knee locked out while I'm doing turns? Deanna, this is something I would want to work with you one-on-one. And I would want to see your turns, like a video or a Skype. I'd like to see your turns and see what you mean by locking out, and see why you feel like you have to lock it. As we lock parts of our body, that leaves us no flexibility, literally no flexibility. And when you go into an arabesque, if anybody goes into an arabesque and lifts their leg, you're not still. Your foot is moving a little bit, your upper body is moving, you're constantly adjusting. So while I want the knees to be straight and strong and pulled up on the inside, I don't necessarily have people lock their knees, especially with hyperextension, because when their knees lock like that in hyperextension, then the upper part of their body has to curve out to make up for it, rather than being straight like that. So I would love to see what you're doing and see if we could adjust things other ways, or maybe use different language to try to address what you're trying to get to. So we've done balance with our eyes closed. Now, if you want to challenge your balance, you can take your yoga mat or your pillow, Ava, and try standing on that, right? This is a very big, thick yoga mat. Thank you to my daughter for letting me borrow it. I try to have my toes hanging off of it, because with my toes all the way on it, like this, first I'll wobble a different direction, which is fine, but also with my toes on it, I can use my toes to help me stabilize. With my toes off of it, I can't. And all those little muscles that come up into my calf are useless to help me balance. I want to see if I can balance there and what it feels like. What happens when I close my eyes? I start to fall. Finding your balance here is going to be super duper helpful. Once you get working on this, I would love to see you turn it out, still with the toes hanging off, and try to do a little adagio. Taking it up into an attitude, wherever you're going to go with it, right? Working on balance that way. You can also work on balance with any of the squishy stuff. Again, standing on it is going to give you all different information. There we go. It's going to give you different information this way as well as this way. This is really going to target your ankle. And it's great if you've had an ankle sprain and you need to remind your body how to have proprioception here. This ankle has sprained numerous times and always needs this. But you need to understand that what you're doing is definitely challenging the ankle. My booty gets tired holding me here. That's not instinctively going to happen if you haven't trained yourself to do that. What do you do if you don't have a yoga mat? Stand on your pillow. Get yourself nice and balanced, squishy here, or find a step, like the steps on my stairs back there, and just let your toes hang off the edge. So you're still going to challenge, it depends on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to challenge your ankle, or if you're trying to balance without your toes. But letting your toes hang off of the stair with your hands close enough. I crunch my toes over the mat. Do you know why? Because you use those little calf muscles to help you balance. And when you stand, everybody's going to use their toes a little bit. But if you stand and I see a whole lot of that going on, I know that's where all of your balance is coming from. If we can get your toes to calm down, a small stack of folded towels works too. Thank you, Tanya, for speaking up about that. If we can get your toes to calm down and have the work happen up here instead of happening down there, then you are going to be so much more ahead of the game when it comes to adagio, pirouettes, all that kind of stuff. We can't be up in a releve and have the toes. May I use a balance board instead? So a balance board is great for working ankle stability, right? I assume you're talking about a wobble board with the small circle underneath. It's just going to work on that ankle strength, okay? In general, again, this is a whole other seminar. I'm not a big fan of doing fancy stuff on the balance board. I like to use the Bosus, but any Bosu work I do is all about this stability. It's not about this stability. So Bosu work for me is about up here. The balance board, the small wobble boards with the small thing underneath is about ankles. You can do promenades on the balance board, on flat, any of that stuff, but recognizing you're working ankle strength and not necessarily making your toes quit working. If you stand on a Bosu, you'll know right away if your feet are working because the Bosu starts to shake like this and wobble back and forth. And if you can stop your feet from working and get it to here, then it calms down. After I used the yoga mat with eyes closed, I felt strain in my arch. Is that normal? That depends on if you felt like muscles working or if you felt like you were rolling in on it and putting a strain on it this way. So I would look at that, maybe set up a video camera to videotape yourself and see what you're doing. My calves get really tight if I stand on it too long. Why does this happen? Because, Amaya, you are using your calves to balance. Oh, are you talking about the balance board or the wobble board? Either way, it's because you're using your calves too much to balance. I would take you off of it, and I would do other stuff to work on balancing from here. All right, especially adagio. That's exactly why then, Amaya. If your calves are getting tight in adagio, you're balancing from down there and not from up here. I would want you to really work on turnout. Oh, good, Jordy, it was your muscles working. Excellent. I would want you to really work on turnout, and I would want you to really work on stabilization here. Jennifer Milgram, is it bad that I feel all the rises in my shins? If you feel the rises in your shins, look at the front of my leg. You're working from here to help you balance. So you shouldn't feel the rises in your shins, and what's probably happening is as you lower, you're using the front of your leg like that. You can see it popping out to help you control it down, rather than lowering, gripping, and then eccentrically lowering down. So I can do a bicep curl, and my bicep, if I had one, boop, would get big, and then as I slowly lower it, my bicep is still working to keep me from falling. So my heel rise is a bicep curl, and I'm not just going to let go of it. But if I don't have the strength to control it come down, then I might be using the front to help control it come down. I'm feeling a lot of these exercises in my hamstrings. Is that right? If you're feeling it up into the back of your legs up here, that's probably a good thing because you're feeling your pelvis forward over your leg. I like to get dancers into their hamstring, which inserts onto their pelvis right over it like this. Is it normal for me to feel like I'm rolling to the side on my arch? No. But I would have to look at it to see, is that Georgia again? I would have to look at it to see if you're rolling in this way or if you're rolling out that way. We really want to go right to that second toe as you go up and you go down, okay? All right, I think we're about out of time. So if you have any last minute questions, throw them at me really quick. Make sure that I covered everything that you wanted to understand. There's so much to cover with the foot and ankle, obviously. There's a lot that you can do, like all the stuff that we just did. I'm terrible with technology, so if I can't figure out how to save this, then feel free to just DM me and ask me whatever questions you have. But all of this is stuff you can do on your own. I like for my dancers to do some 5 to 10 minute variation of this before every class, so your feet are nice and warmed up and strong. Don't your feet feel like they're ready to hit class and like your calves are ready to do work? Do you have any resources for hyperextension help? I work with a lot of dancers with hyperextension, and for everybody, for everything, the ballet blog is a great resource. It's just theballetblog.com. It's Lisa Howell's website. She has so many great papers and blogs and videos to help on all sorts of things, and she's got some great videos on working with hyperextension. It's really important to get it under control. I don't make any money off of recommending her. She's just a friend of mine, and I think she's really, really good. So we're recommending toast paper if you have bunions. Yeah, that's a long question to talk about, so DM me that. Struggling with eyes closed, standing like balance, just keep trying, or some other thing to improve it? I would say just keep trying, and then see if you can do it with your eyes open for a while to build up strength for it. Could you keep this video for a while so we can rewatch it? Your mouth to God's ears. I'm hoping that I can make that happen. My feet feel amazing after all of this. Yay! Thank you. Excellent. When using wooden foot stretcher, does that only help your toes point or stretch your ankle as well? Foot stretchers. Okay, this is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll stop. I don't like foot stretchers. Most dance medicine people don't like foot stretchers. I'm really sorry. But what the foot stretcher stretches is right here and not right here. And what it's doing stretching here is stretching all the connective tissue here and just making your feet more susceptible to ankle sprains. So I try really hard to avoid foot stretchers, and I would highly recommend some one-on-one work with someone. Lisa Howell again has a lot of fascial release work. I do a lot of fascial release work in releasing my feet and helping them move into their greatest range of motion without using a foot stretcher and without doing anything unsafe. You're gonna have another live soon because I love this. Thank you, Liliana. Yeah, just let me know. Tell Free Dancing Strength. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called now. Tell the page that I'm on right now what you'd like to see, and let's talk about it. I'm glad that your feet feel amazing, and thank you so much, everybody. And I will see you soon. Bye.